All right, everybody. So James here, back with another watch review, and today we're talking about the Rolex Yacht-Master II. So this is a stainless steel model, and then just for your information, the reference on this one is 116680. So as I said, a stainless steel case. Looking farther in, so you got the case here, then you have the bezel, which is ceramic or Cerachrome bezel here in blue, and then we have the platinum inserts for the numerical indices there. And then as you go further in the dial, a couple of things going on here. So we've got white gold around the outside for the hour markers, and this is the newer version. So there are a couple different versions of this watch. The original version that they launched had like fired blue hands, and this is the 2017 iteration. So after 2017, you'll notice the difference in the hands. You'll also notice that there's a triangle at 12 versus a square. So that also changed with the 2017 revision of the watch. So, and then on the inside of the dial, you've got, the Rolex with all the text here. You've got a countdown timer, which is really interesting. We'll get into that in a little bit. You have kind of a center seconds right here, and then right now I have the chronograph just running, so it's actually matched up to what the seconds are running at. There's a way to do that. Lots of cool functionality with this watch we'll talk about in a little bit. So Yacht-Master II, as I said, this one I really am enjoying. This just picked it up recently, and I got to be honest, the first watch that I really saw from Rolex that I really was interested in was the Daytona, and for just kind of various reasons, but over time, I just realized, number one, they are insanely hard to get right now. Number two, I'm probably not actually going to use the chronograph functionality of the Daytona. I find this to be a much more practical day-to-day use for it. Obviously, if you are timing things longer than 10 minutes, or if you're racing, where you want the tachymetric scale on the Daytona, then that's probably going to be useful for you. Obviously, it's a very iconic piece, the Daytona, so, there's no debating that. But overall, after putting some real thought into it, I kind of like the outside-the-box design of the Yacht-Master II here. And like I said, I think the chronograph is a lot more practical than the one on the Daytona. It's also a lot more legible and easy to read. So let's talk a little bit about the watch itself. So if we're looking here at the case, this one is a 44 millimeter case, so it is a pretty large watch by Rolex's standards. However, it's not quite as squared off as some of the more popular models like the Sub, or like the Deep Sea is also, I think, a 43 or 44 millimeter, and it's a little bit bulkier. This one is not as bulky. It's just under, I think, right at 14 millimeters thick. So it's thick, but it's not ridiculous. Again, I tried on a Deep Sea at an authorized dealer once, and that thing is massive, particularly on my wrist. Now, as you can also note, we've got the chronograph pushers out here, and then we've got our crown on this side with a trip lock. So it's 100 meters water resistant, which is great. Obviously, it's a Yacht-Master, so it's a nautical sports watch. I'm not going to be using it for any boating, but it is nice to have it just so that I know it's protected against water, so I don't have to worry about that. Then, as you can see on this one, I changed out the factory bracelet. So I'm actually using a rubber B strap. You can see that right here. They have several different versions of this one. I was kind of debating between a couple of different ones, but I really wanted to go with the white because it matched the dial, and I like the little blue accent on it. I think it really goes well between the white and the blue on the dial and the bezel. So normally it comes with the oyster strap on there with the easy link adjustment. The rubber B, the way that it's built, it does not have, let's see if I can get it to zoom in here, it doesn't have that ability on this section here. Normally you would have the easy link right here, but because of the way that it's shaped, it doesn't work with the Easy Link. So you have to adjust this kind of to fit and use the the quick adjustments that are divoted in right here if you want to adjust the size on the watch at all. From there, you've got the Rolex clamshell lock clasp. So you have the lift lock first with the beacon horn, so that goes down first, and then the clamshell that goes over the top of it, just like that. And then to get it out, pull that open, and then lift this with your finger, and then there's your clasp. So you got your Rolex logo, kind of their standard clasp for this one. And then you can see the other side here, coming back up to the bezel. Now, this one is an interesting one for me for a couple of reasons. So I have pretty small wrists. My wrists are just over 6 inches in diameter. And so I did another review with the first Rolex that I purchased, which was this guy here, the Sky Dweller. Now, as interesting as this is, the lug-to-lug dimensions between the Sky Dweller and the Yacht-Master II are almost virtually the same. And so even though I have small wrists, and I was a little concerned because, again, it's a 44 millimeter watch versus a 42, which already wears slightly big for me, I tried this on at an AD and really, did a lot of research on the lug dimensions and even the case thickness, between the two watches. It is, I think it's like a millimeter or like a point, a tenth of a millimeter different or something like that. Like it's very, very close. So ultimately, even though the Yacht-Master is a bigger watch, the Sky Dweller comes close. So it's just not quite as wide in diameter as far as the round part of the case goes, but lug to lug, it's pretty much exactly the same. So just for reference, if you are looking at the Sky Dweller or if you're looking at the Yacht-Master II, just know that the case sizes are going to be very, very similar on both watches. So now that we've talked about that, let's get into the functionality of the piece, because this is where I think it's really unique and honestly kind of cool. So I've got my chronograph running right now. You can see it's at 0, meaning my 10-minute countdown has run out. And I'm just letting the seconds continue to run because I actually like having the movement on the dial there. So I'm just letting the hand run first at the center of the dial, and I matched it up to this little sub-register down here, which is actually keeping the time on the watch. And then obviously you have the hour hand and the minutes hand there. These are all loomed, so you can see them at night. You just can't see the chronograph, but hopefully you're not doing any sailing too late at night. So to give you an idea of how this watch works, because it's a little complex. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to thread out the crown. And once it's out, I'm in the winding position. So I can wind the watch from here. If I pull it out another click, that will stop the functionality. So I pulled it out another click. You can see the center seconds stops there, or the sub-register. I push it back in, you can see them pick up again. So that's how you can hack the movement if you want to get your seconds lined up. Now as far as the chronograph goes, kind of an interesting setup they have here. So first what I have to do is I've got to stop the chronograph from running. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset it, which is the bottom pusher here, just back to where I had it before. So you can see there I had it at 3 minutes, and then the seconds hand goes back to 12 or 5. And then the way to actually change where the chronograph sets to, it's a mechanical memory, it's very cool, is I'm going to turn the bezel. This is another watch that I was fascinated by, like the Sky Dweller, that uses the ring command on it to change the functionality of the watch. So I turn the bezel, 90 degrees counterclockwise. Yeah, counterclockwise, so that the Yacht-Master II is on the right. And then I'm going to push my bottom pusher in, and you'll notice that it stays in. And what that now does is that allows me to set the chronograph to whatever time denomination that I want to be. And if I go past 10, it just jumps back to 0. It's a very cool little mechanism. So I think I had it set at 3 minutes. So I'll just keep it at 3 minutes. Then when I'm done setting it, I take the ring command and I turn it back. You can see that the bottom chronograph pusher popped back out, so that's now where it's supposed to be. I'm going to thread my crown back in, of course, to make sure that I have my water resistance. And now I have it set. So you can see it's set at 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the chronograph. It's very crisp. I have used I have used the Daytona. I've gotten a chance to play with it before. It does, it has the crispness of the Daytona in terms of, pressing these buttons here. I'm not going to try to remember the technical terms for why that is, but basically it has the functionality that allows you to both have really crisp functionality with the chronograph pushers, and also the functionality of, like you could see when I was running it when I started the video, that you can let the chronograph continue to run after it's reached 0, and that will not damage the movement at all. If you want any information on that, you can look it up online, but basically that's the functionality that is built into the watch, and it's actually really nice. So as you can see, the chronograph hand is just going along, and it's counting down. It's not a minute repeater, it doesn't give you chimes or anything like that, but it's a visual indicator. So I'll just let it continue to count here. So let's talk about the pricing on this watch. So you can still get these retail. They're not as hard to find at ADs. I've had an AD that had a two-tone model recently, and then they ended up selling it. So overall, I've been in and out of ADs for probably a couple of years now and just haven't had much luck with them. So that's why I decided to go secondary market for this one. The normal pricing on them is about $18,750. So $18,750. I picked this one up for right around 22 is where they're mostly trading at right now. You can find them with no box, no papers. You can find them for cheaper than that, somewhere in the $19,000, $20,000 range. But, this is a newer one. It's a 2020 model year. So it's only 2 years old, still has some of the factory warranty left on it, and still has the box and papers with it as well. So overall, I think it was a good buy. And then, of course, I had to get the rubber B strap separately. Rubber B, again, just a, great band manufacturer. They make all sorts of stuff. Like I say, I got both this one and the navy blue here for my Sky Dweller. I just really like the sportiness of the way that it makes these watches look. So if you're looking for a nice change of pace, for your band, or you're not as big of a fan of the Oyster, or like me, you have smaller wrists, because that's something else that it does is when you actually put it on, it fits a little bit closer to what the actual lug-to-lug distance is. It doesn't flare out as much across your wrists because of the fact that it just comes straight down and it doesn't flare out as much. So this is what the watch actually looks like on my wrist. I'm sure that I will get all sorts of comments about the fact that the watch is too big for me, because that was what happened with the Sky Dweller as well. But you know what? Once again, I really I've always been kind of a, outside of the box kind of guy in terms of my style and what I like, and I really think this one captured it well. So this is what it looks like on the wrist. Again, you could easily go with a larger wrist and this will fit you just fine. If I'm really looking at it, the lugs are pretty close to the very edges of my wrist. So, is it massive on me? Some people might say so, but I really think this is more of a personal decision here. With the 44 millimeter case, I just really like the fit, and I like the way it looks, and I like the functionality. And you can see already the chronograph has gone to 0. So at this point, the chronograph will just continue to run if I leave it there. What I'm actually going to do is, let me pop it off. I'm going to stop it right where it's at, and I'm just going to let the center seconds, or the sub-register, catch up with it and restart it, just so that they're lined up. Again, some people may not care about that or be particular about that, but I just like to have them, I like to let it run. It just adds a nice visual element to the watch, I think. So that is the Yacht-Master II. So if you're, like I say, if you're looking at a Daytona, thinking about a Daytona, honestly, you guys, this is such a better buy, and you don't have to pay a ridiculous amount of, over retail to get one. If you can get a Daytona at retail from an authorized dealer, absolutely, more power to you. You should do that, if it's really the one that you want. But like I say, I fell in love with that watch first off at Rolex, and then came across the Sky Dweller and just really enjoyed that one. And then I found this one, and I had been looking at it for a while, and I was like, you know what? I really don't need a Daytona. Like, what do I need a Daytona for? Like, yeah, it's iconic. I get that. If you're just buying it for that, absolutely. Like I said, you're going to end up, if you can't get it at an authorized dealer, you're going to end up paying, 2, 3, 4 times what it's worth at retail. So there's that. But hey, that's the thing about watches. Everybody has a different reason for buying them. Everybody has a different, emotional connection to them. And for me, like I said, I really kind of like this, navy blue and white kind of theme going on, as I did with my Sky Dweller as well. So kind of like the color scheme a little bit more, and I'm really enjoying this. So hope that helps you guys. Hope that is informative for you. 72-hour power reserve, and we talked about the water resistance already. So that's about all the technical details that I can give you. Shout out to the guys over at Watchbox again. I was looking on Chrono24 and found a couple decent deals for these on there, and I ended up going back to Watchbox. It's just watchbox.com. Again, they don't pay me to do these videos or anything like that, but the guys over there are great. They have awesome pre-owned models. They're usually in very good condition, and the service is excellent. So a shout out to Tim and all the guys over there who really have educated me a lot about watches over the last couple of years, and been great whenever I've been looking to make a purchase. So hope that helps you. If you're looking at these, my opinion, skip the Daytona, go with the Yacht-Master II, save yourself a whole lot of money, and get something that is different. Don't get something that everybody else has. Of course, if it's the one that your heart is set on, stick with the Daytona. But I thought my heart was set on that too, and you know what? I just really came to the conclusion that for all practical purposes and price purposes, what's the point? Honestly, what's the point? Yeah, it looks great. I will give it that. Daytona, it's a great looking watch, but this one is the one for me. Plus, I can put a rubber B on it that's white, and it looks fantastic. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give me your comments down below. Again, I'm sure you'll tell me that it's too big for me, or that you'd rather go with the Daytona. So you can comment those things too. But leave your comments. If you like the video, if you want. I don't do many of these videos because I am not an avid watch collector. I have my favorites, and that's about it. But feel free to subscribe if you'd like, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. So again, this is the Yacht-Master II on the wrist.